Okay. Okay. My name is Cathy Lindsey, and I work under Astro Eyes Evolutionary Astrology. I've been doing readings. I started my first readings in 1994. I've since studied with Jeffrey Wolf Green and Stephen Forrest, and a lot of self-study, especially doing charts all that time. I also write full moon and new moon reports almost continuously for about 8 or 9 years now. And during that time, I've learned a lot about the effects of the energies of the new and the full moons, and also the equinoxes and the solstices, and how they play, and sometimes very powerfully, with our own natal charts, the charts of humanity and the collective, the charts of countries, and as above, so below, the energies as they come to Earth affect everyone and everything, including the Earth. And it's very, very, they can become very, very pivotal. And knowing the knowledge and knowing how the planets are affecting humanity and ourselves and the Earth really kind of gives us extra knowledge that a lot of other people don't have. It gives you the ability to understand the energies when you walk out your front door and have to go to work or go to a meeting or whatever you need to do that's outside of the comfort of your home and your own chart. And so when you understand a little bit about the energies you're walking into, it gives you the ability to navigate them a lot better. It gives you the ability to not only navigate them, but to make choices and to make better choices, understanding what is happening in the collective, in the world, with everyone that's out there. And even those that don't understand themselves what is actually going on, it just helps you be able to navigate around them or navigate with them and just navigate the whole reality out in the big picture when you walk out the door. So being able to use your own energies in your own chart when you understand them, and being able to use them in comparison to what is happening up in the sky at this particular moment. Again, as above, so below. So I'm doing a talk on the fall equinox, and I'm also touching on the new Libra moon that's coming up next week. And I'm just going to reference real quick the Pisces full moon we had just not long ago. And that's not anything that we need the chart for. I just want to reference that. And I'll do that as I'm talking here about the equinox. And I want to go into detail a little bit on the equinox. We basically all know the fall equinox in the northern hemisphere, and the spring equinox basically in the southern hemisphere. So I'm kind of talking from the fall equinox, but I'll refer to the southern. And I'm going to go into a little detail on it because we all know the basics, but I just kind of want to go over what the energies really are and part of the mission of the fall equinox. So it is a powerful one. We've been on quite a ride for the last year or two. We got a couple more years to go. But when we start this time period with the fall equinox, it's a time of connecting with the earth as we observe it and the sky, connecting with both, as above, so below. The earth right now is in a bit of a crisis, as we know, and we need to be helping her with love, which is part of the equinox because of the sun moving into Libra and forming the equinox. And so ruled by Venus, so we need a lot of that love for the earth herself. And also the equinox meaning balance, bringing the earth, bringing the energies into balance around her. Things are pretty chaotic with the earth right now, and we all feel it, but the earth is feeling it also. And you can see that in the weather, etc. The The equinox is a time of balance. It's a time of getting, of going within as we start to prepare for the darkness of winter. And those down in the southern hemisphere, you're starting to prepare for spring and summer. But for the northern hemisphere, it's like we're starting to go within and starting to prepare our homes and our families and our plans for being more inside as the weather gets colder. It's harvest time. The harvest, connecting, it's also a time of connecting with our tribes and connecting with the bounty of food, etc., that we bring in during this time of harvest, and sharing bounties of love throughout the fall season. It's kind of a very loving, beautiful season. For those of you that aren't in the northern hemisphere, the leaves are changing, the air's getting crisp, the corn is drying up so that they can harvest it, and it becomes very pretty and a very, the energy is just very loving and very, very grounding, I guess you might say. And the fall equinox really sets it off. It really becomes a concrete point in people's chart, in people's minds at this time, that there is something to be grateful for. There's a bounty of not only food from the harvest, but a bounty of love, a bounty of community. So a lot of the community events that go on during harvest time. People get together and pick up the stalks out of the cornfields after they've gone through and they've gotten the corn out, and they make bonfires and they make, beautiful scenery, and you have the colored corn, and it's just a very, very beautiful time of year. So when the sun enters a cardinal, which is Libra's cardinal, enters a cardinal sign of Libra, and cardinal energy, means change and birthing of new and urgency, which the fall equinox is. And the sign of Libra bringing in peace and balance and love and creativity. So there's an equal balance of light and day at the equinox. The center of the sun is aligned directly with the Earth's equator, and both the northern and southern hemispheres receive the same amount of sunlight. And all the latitudes on Earth receive an equal distribution of 12 hours of daylight and 12 hours of darkness. This alignment is precise and distinct and opens a portal or a gateway to the universe. These portals to the universe that are created at the equinoxes and the solstices are very, very important, connecting the galaxies and connecting the universe with the Earth at that point. It's a tremendous time to meditate and to manifest during that time, and getting together and ceremonies. Of course, the equinox up here is very early in the morning, so there's not a lot of gatherings happening at the exact moment. But if you set your alarm for a few minutes before and ask your guidance to help you receive and communicate with the universe and the galaxies during the time of the portal, and I usually get out a 10 or 15 minute whatever opening there where the energies are very powerful and where you can really connect. And it's a very powerful time. With this equinox, we have two portal openings actually. We have the actual opening of the portal of the fall equinox, and we also have the fact that the Libra sun is sitting on the supergalactic center, and that's the first degrees of Libra. The supergalactic center is a center in the universe that at least 30, if not more, galaxies rotate around, and our galaxy is one of them. So a very powerful point there at the fall equinox, that with the sun in Libra, that we can really connect out with the supergalactic center and collect more intergalactic, I like to think of it. And so that's also a portal. We also have Mars and Venus that are sitting lightly with the sun. So Mars can be passion and Venus can be love. Mars can also be more energies, activating energies, and the activation and the passion on the higher side, and the war and the arguments on the lower side, and Venus, of course, love and creativity, um, also is associated with this equinox, and Venus also rules the Libra sign. These openings to the universe is an opportunity, like I said, for information and knowledge from all star system, etc. And we can communicate through telepathically, and also through our angels, guides, and your guidance during this time. The universe is asking us to look not only at ourselves, but all humanity on Earth, the Earth itself, and throughout the galaxies, to share and encourage action and love and passion for all life forms everywhere, and to come together and to realize that we can communicate telepathically and we can feel different vibrations. The portal or the gateway is like a window of time, and you receive downloads, etc., like I said a little earlier. And this equinox also is currently, the fall equinox is currently aligned with the North Galactic Pole, which is an area that astronomers consider the best for studying other galaxies. So very, very important, this portal that will be opening. When this alignment happens, it is as if an intergalactical doorway has been opened. The timing allows for easier access to the intergalactic energy codes that are coming in through this doorway or portal. So open up again, open up and receive. Ask for clarity and guidance with the messages you receive from the universe during this time. Ask for the guidance and meditate. One of the main things about meditating and opening up during events like this, with the equinox and the portals, etc., is be sure and listen. A lot of times people will get so wrapped up in the meditating or manifesting, etc., that they forget to listen. And you have to listen to see what you might receive or what you might feel during the openings of the portals. So it's a time to pause and give thanks for abundance in all areas over the last 6 months, and the natural world, of course, is slowing down, fall equinox, and then, like I said, going within and kind of planning what we're going to do over the next few months with ourselves and our tribe and our community and all around the world as things get colder and we're in the house more. Again, those in the southern hemisphere, that part is a little different, as you'll be looking at spring and summer and getting out there in the world and having things more. Because the equinox chart is related to the Earth as it is to astrology and astronomy, it can be very significant in describing current events throughout the world. So the fall equinox chart shows us the world's dominant energies for the next 3 months. It's time to start planning again, like I said, manifest, set intentions for the northern hemisphere. It's making plans for the more winter and colder months. For those in the southern hemisphere, making plans to get out in the sun and to have fun and to plant things, etc. The energy will be a bit chaotic, along with some radical transformations and many downloads at this equinox that will be full of a lot of information and activations. They will both be conscious and unconscious, but life-changing just the same. The universe seems to be speaking loudly at this point in our evolution And we have to make sure that we understand those energies and not release them. So it's a very prominent time, a very important time with the Earth, the equinox. Some of the aspects I'll go into now. There's quite a few things happening, and that's why I said the energies will be a little chaotic, etc. I want to start out with Mars, and the reason why Mars moves fairly fast, but Mars has been pivotal in, and that's what I'm going to mention just briefly. We don't need a chart for this, but Mars was very, very connected to the Pisces full moon that we just had a week or so ago. And it was conjunct the sun, opposing the moon, and in a Cardinal T Square. Mars was very, very active in the Pisces full moon that we just had. And it's very active in the equinox. I'll get to that in a minute. And it's very active in the new Libra moon coming up, which I'll go into more detail later. But for right now, Mars, of course, can be, like I said, it can be warlike, it can be anger, it can be accidents, it can be fighting. But Mars also can be passionate. It can give you the ability to take action on things. It's like the pioneer energy and let's start this crusade, and very positive. It can go either way, but the energy is very, very strong when it comes to Mars. And Mars in the chart of the equinox is in a wide conjunction to the equinox sun. And I say wide conjunction, I consider wide conjunctions out to about 10. When you're dealing with a lot of energy, because energy is energy. And it's kind of like you can't draw a line in the sign and say, okay, sand, and say, okay, energy, you can't go beyond that line. Energy is energy, and it fizzles out as it dissipates. So it will still be active within a 10-degree orb, not as active as if it was closer, but it's still there. And especially when you have several very active aspects going on at the same time, pulling it in here and pulling it in there. So that's where, in my thinking, you can't harness that energy. It's going to be there. When it continues to be activated, they say the T Square and other things going on, it keeps that energy active. So Mars is 7 degrees away of conjunction of the sun, the equinox sun. And on the gray side, you can really kind of see this Mars energy playing out all over the world right now. We're in a very volatile time. Right now, everywhere in the world is being affected, basically. Of course, I live in the United States. There's a lot happening here in the United States right now. We also have Iran. We have Saudi Arabia that just had blow-ups, bombs or whatever in the oil fields. There's things going on in England with the Brexit and a lot of other places too, just besides those. Those are just a couple that I pulled out. The world is in a lot of chaos right now. The world is very volatile right now. And it can go either way, really, with the Mars action here. I mean, it could go to the high side of that Mars, or it could go to the lower side, or the grayer side of that Mars. And of course, we want it to go to the higher side, which is passion and pioneer and crusade and stuff. That's where we want to manifest and where we want to send our energies to. The Mars is also trining the conjunction of, and this is good, this is a little bit of help here, but it's trining the conjunction of this Saturn South Node Pluto, and both moon's charts actually also. And so it's kind of like the universe has given us a little bit of a gift here. It's like we have a lot of chaos, a lot of, with that Mars South Node, Saturn conjunction in the sign of governments, and that's governments all over the world, and corporate America all over the world. And to bring that trine in is very, very almost comforting, because we have a little bit of harmonious energy mixing in, and that's very, very good. So it's like it's trying to help us heal that South Node, those themes of the government and the world, and all of that on the grayer side, trying to give us a little bit of tools to move forward with. At the equinox, the trine is coming from Virgo, and Virgo is very analytical. It's very earthy. It's very precise, etc. So to try to work things out harmoniously, and we need that now. We need that a lot. Mars in the equinox chart is also widely square Jupiter, and Jupiter can help. I mean, with Jupiter, it can help us with some of the aggressive energy and put it into more of the more joy and optimism and the higher wisdoms and the truths, etc. But on the gray side, it can also expand some of that warrior aggression, volatile kind of energy also. So there again, it's us helping that energy move by manifesting and creating and etc., helping us move that energy into the higher, that Mars energy into the higher. And also, when you think of Jupiter, it's also activating the international law, which Sagittarius, Jupiter rules Sagittarius, but Sagittarius rules the international law. And there again, we're in a very strong and a volatile kind of period right now, with Iran and the Saudi Arabia thing going on, and here in the United States over the last few days, we've had these, I don't know, some kind of a secret phone call or agreement the president was supposed to have made that's now very, very much in the news to some foreign government. How that'll turn out, I can't really say, but it really has a lot of angst going on. It has a lot of chaos going on because of that. At the same time, we're involved with Iran, the Saudi Arabia thing. So there's a lot of chaotic energies going on here in the United States. But that, again, is part of the Middle East, and it's affecting the whole world everywhere. Mars is active again in the chart of the new Libra moon, and it's widely 8 degrees conjunct this new moon. And I'll show that when I bring up the chart. We'll look at that again when we bring up the Libra and the moon chart. I'll finish here with I do want to point out, since I was talking about the United States, in the chart of the United States, the sun for the United States is at 13 degrees Cancer. And if you look at the nodes, the North Node is 14 degrees Cancer. And the North Node at the equinox is sitting with the moon, the Cancer moon. And they're both sitting right on the United States chart. Sun in the chart of the United States, excuse me. So when I looked at that, I thought that this really, you can see this playing out in the news everywhere. You can see, yes, here in the United States, it's sitting right on our sun of the United States. That's the North Node. That's where we're supposed to be headed. But of course, it's opposing Pluto's South Node, Saturn, and it's squaring the Venus, Mercury in Libra during this equinox. So the United States is involved a lot in all of this, and it makes total sense that it's the North Node and Moon are landing on the sun of the United States, an emphasis to us that that's where we're heading towards. We're heading to that nurturing energy for the whole world and all humanity, and that mother energy for all, feed everybody, take care of everybody, nurture everybody. Not enable them, but nurture them, take care of them, and do what needs to be done in those arenas. And that landing on the sun of the United States is very pivotal right now, because that's where some of our problems are. Some of the nurturing and caring is in a chaotic state at the moment. So I wanted to point that out, because that affects the whole world everywhere also. And so a pivotal time everywhere. So that's kind of where Mars is. Mars is really affecting a lot right now, with the volatile energies, the anger type of energies, the ink kind of energies, and all that kind of stuff that we're all putting up with, and we're all trying to embody, including the Earth. Remember, the Earth is alive, and we can see the Earth rebelling. So we can see it through the massive floods and the hurricanes, the power in the hurricanes, very Plutonian, and a lot of the other things, a lot of earthquakes, you don't hear about them anymore until they reach like an 8 or a 9 or several hundred people are killed or something. Otherwise, they don't make the news. But when I go to the earthquake site, there's a lot of them. The Earth's rebelling. The Earth is going through change. Global warming is really big, and of course the Pluto South Node Saturn is in Earth signs, along with several other like Uranus that is trining the moon, the Pluto South Node Saturn conjunction is in Taurus. It's shaking things up in with the land, with the earth. At this particular time, it's trying all that, which is good. It's not shaking it up as much, but it's putting it in people's faces. Global warming, yes. Whatever source you believe that comes from. At this point, wherever it comes from is different. It is okay. What we need to do is make sure that we're not enabling it more. Make sure that we're not feeding into it. We need to counteract it as much as we can. With clean air, clean water, we need to be on that end of the global warming part, and not enabling it to get worse, and not making it worse. And so whatever view you think that comes from, the global warming, it doesn't matter. We need to take proactive steps to not help it warm up anymore. And I think that's part of what Uranus is doing in Taurus right now, working with the energies of Pluto South Node Saturn, especially at the Fall Equinox, which is a very earthly and astronomical and astrological time in the whole year. It's a very earth, I want to say earthly, but that doesn't sound very earthy part, and it's making an appointment, and the universe is making a point. I also want to mention that, of course, Saturn has just turned direct, and it's been retrograde for about five months, I believe, and so just actually about 4 or 5 days before the equinox, Saturn actually turned direct. And of course, Saturn rules the government and the military and the stock market and corporate America and all of our structures, airport, schools, trains, all the structures, especially government structures. So, and it's more on the conservative side, with integrity and loyalty and maturity. The Capricorn energies. Capricorn also is the one sign that can really manifest. When you look at the symbol of Capricorn, it's a goat with fish's tail. The goat is that one that strives and gets the business done and becomes a CEO, etc. The fishtail is where the psychic comes in, where the intuitive comes in, where the wisdom of the elders on this side of the veil or on the other side, where that wisdom comes in, and it gives gives the person the ability then to manifest and bring it into reality. And that's a really high side of Capricorn. A lot of people forget about. So the reality of things in the world and in all the governments, and all the corporates, all over the world, however they're ran. Right now, the things that we don't like and the things that go against our own maybe morality or our own way of speaking and talking, all of this is being put right in our faces right now, right in our faces. And it's so that we can see what it is that needs to be changed. Pluto, South Node, Saturn. South Node, what do we need to move away from so that we can head to that North Node? And in the equinox chart with the moon too. And the moon is the cellular memory. Awesome. So it's being pulled right in our faces. Traditions, integrity, respect, maturity. Saturn also confronts us with things like bills that are due, that need to be paid, and hard choices to make. Saturn pushes us sometimes, and the dark Capricorn, being ruled by the Saturn there right now, conjunct the South Node. It can be frightening at times. The situations that are put into our face, and some of them we can actually make some changes, in our own chart, in our own lives, and some of them we can make changes by manifesting or praying or using all the energies to the high side when you're looking at like, the humanity and the collective. But we do have a lot of power. Manifesting is very, very strong. So Saturn rules all this. And Saturn, now that it's direct, has been moving forward for a few days. It's getting its toes into the ground now, moving forward a little bit. Is playing a very important part in this equinox. So anything that we've been thinking about starting, anything that we've been thinking about that we need to speak about or that might need changed over the last few months, now is the time to start it. Now that Saturn's moving forward. I would wait a little bit, though, a little bit longer before I actually made the steps to do that. To bring it out, I let Saturn get a little more grip going. But now's the time to start. The things that we've been initiating and internalizing and starting a new business or new structures in your life, things like this. Making plans to do these things with more integrity and more respect, and also to visit and talk to our elders. Capricorn, Saturn, very much about our elders. And a lot of groups of people really honor their elders. And in the United States, that's not quite as common as I believe it should be. I don't think people listen to their elders or go visit and talk to them as much as they should. There's so much wisdom with the elders. And that's part of Capricorn also, and part of what Saturn is. Saturn's also trining Neptune through this equinox, and that also helps activate creativity and unconditional love. And that's a big one. And also spirituality and the psychic, and bringing that more into people's lives, even though they may not know exactly what it is, but it can get triggered in them. And again, so emphasizing the ability to manifest, which is Capricorn and Saturn. Saturn in Capricorn intensifies and complicates, really, the conjunction of Pluto, South Node, and Saturn conjunction, those three planets. I mean, Saturn coming into the picture really brings in some it complicates it and brings in some of the intensification of some of the energies. So it makes it, the energies extra strong. Saturn is also part of the Cardinal T Square that is going on during this um, Fall Equinox. And the Cardinal T Square is very, very prominent in this chart, and also in the chart of the new and full moons. All squares, of course, are very intense and oppositions. So the Cardinal T Square is very, very powerful. And it can even become a little volatile if not handled in the highest way. And that's what all of us around the world are kind of right now sitting on pins and needles with some of the activations going on between countries and the leaders of countries right now. And so this really intensifies it even more. The Cardinal T Square, of course, consists of Pluto, South Node Saturn in Capricorn, opposing the North Node, and in the equinox chart, the Moon and in Cancer. And the T Square then goes to Libra, which is Venus and Mercury in Libra. So communicating fairly and balanced, that's Libra. Venus ruling Libra, so doing it with some unconditional love, doing it with some high creativity, doing it with some positive energies. And so that's kind of a, even though it's a square, remember squares are growth aspects. You can grow through them. It really is kind of a little help there to have the square to the nodes, the Moon and Saturn and Pluto, be Venus and Mercury. So part of this is talking and speaking internationally, government-wise, corporate-wise, just between you and me and whoever else, with a little more love, a little more calmness, a little more integrity and respect, a little more maturity. That's all part of this Cardinal T Square. And if we wanted to really extend the orb out, because that's so much energy, such powerful energy, we could pull in Eris. She's at 24 degrees. And so 10, 11, 12, something, we could pull her in. And Pluto's definitely square Eris. So we have that chaos, that discord, that jealousy, that competition, that part of Eris that is activating the Cardinal T Square also, and then it would become a grand cross. And the fact that it squares Pluto kind of brings that in. So this is a lot of energy. Remember, this energy is very active until the winter solstice. So we have several months of this very powerful energy happening, and we can see it in the world. We can see it in the world. The Pluto, the T Square is a very powerful point. The equinox Cancer Moon North Node is a very powerful point, because that is also the polarity point of Pluto. And so there again, another emphasis on what is Pluto bringing up that everybody needs to heal at a soul level, humanity soul level, earth soul level. Pluto only cares about the soul, our soul, humanity's soul, the earth soul, and it wants to transform. It wants to transform through the Capricorn energies. And the goal being into the Cancer energy. So what is Pluto transforming here? And then the polarity point of Pluto would be the Cancer energy. And so that's where we're headed. That's where Pluto wants transformation to end up. That's where Pluto wants us to go. Remember, Pluto and Capricorn, that in Pluto only cares again about the transformation of the soul. Doesn't care how much money you have, where you live. It doesn't care about, what clothes you wear or what car you drive. It only cares about the soul. And it cares about integrity, and it cares about respect, maturity, And so you can see a lot of this playing out in the world of things that don't quite fall in that category. Things that governments, leaders, people that aren't acting with maturity, they're not acting with integrity, they're not being respectful, they're not nurturing everybody as somebody, or even animals that are alive. You nurture them, you treat them different, you take care of them. North Node, Moon, Cancer, energy. But also rules sex. So we see a lot of things coming out through sexual channels, trafficking and using of and payoffs for and affairs, et cetera, et cetera. That puts things right in our face again. It's right there in our face. It's on, it's captured in videos and pictures and emails and, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. Because that's an area that is not being treated with respect either. The majority of it isn't, and so it's being put in our face. This year, 2019, going into 2020, I mean, it's kind of their teardown years. We have to get this stuff that's being put in our face switched over to the higher sides so that we can build the new that we're trying to build during this shift. So we can build a better planet, a better humanity, a better society, and people can thrive better. But we can't change it if we can't see it. And when we see it, if we don't like it, it's triggering something at a soul level that we need to address on the best way we can. We can address it personally on the bigger scale, again, manifesting and standing up for our beliefs, etc. The South Node, you bring the South Node in here in the chart too, and you realize that we haven't been doing things quite right, government-wise, structure-wise, corporate-wise, for lifetimes. And that's why Pluto's come in, to bring that transformation through. And remember, when things are transforming, it is not easy. And for those of you that actually have Pluto in your natal chart sitting on your sun or your moon or ascendant or something, you know what I mean. It's not easy, the transformation. We can't always see exactly what it is, but it'll be activated in us. And it's not easy. And if it's easy, then you're not doing the work. Transformation takes work. And that's what we have to do on a more humanitarian global level, is we have to do the work to help transform all of the governments and all the corporates that are not doing it in the right way, that are not doing it with integrity and respect, and they're not doing it with no lies and no secrets. It's another thing Pluto and Capricorn doesn't like, lies and secrets. And they're coming out right and left everywhere also. So South Node, I mean, always suggests karma ripening, karma, coming out in the open, karma you can see. And so that's what's happening for in all over the world and for ourselves too, and especially in the Capricorn areas, government areas, corporate areas, all of the structures. So universally too, worldwide karma, and it's all being activated. So it's very, very powerful. It's a very, very powerful equinox chart, the main chart in astrological and earth cycles. So it always brings truth to the surface. No lies, no secrets, no out of bounds ego. Pluto's going to win if you try to hide all that. It's going to bring it out. And that's what's happening with a lot all over the world, and personally and all over the world. When you look at governments all over, the secrets and the things that have been swept under the rug and the things that are behind closed doors that we haven't been doing right or correctly for lifetimes is being put in our faces. We can't hide anymore. You can't put it under the rug. You can't put it behind closed doors. It's going to come out. That's part of Pluto and the South Node. It always brings the shadow material to the surface, regardless of what house or sign it's in your own chart or the government charts or whatever chart you're looking at. It's going to bring it out regardless. Not everyone's to be just the same, but for them and their soul growth and their charts, it's not going to be easy. But you can do it, and you can mature through it, you can live through it, you can get through the transformations. And even though they're kind of hard and even though they're long, once they're over, you can look back and you can see the changes and you can see the growth. And you can go, I made it. It's about transformation that isn't easy. And again, Pluto only cares about yourself and only cares about the soul, the world, the earth, humanity, the collective, etc. The South Node again, bring up the wounded material and bring it up to the surface for what we haven't got right within the collective, the world, the government, and everything. These two together can be a little terrifying at times if you think about it. If you think about the two together and Pluto transforming at a soul level, not caring what kind of car you drive, where you live, what kind of money you have, or anything, and then bringing in all the past stuff that wasn't done right to put it in your face so that you can make those changes now. You wouldn't have picked this chart to come in with your own personal chart or the chart of humanity, which the equinox is, if we didn't have the ability to bring it into the higher energies. So it's almost like the universe is putting everything out on like a table for everybody to see, for the collective consciousness to see, and for everybody to be aware of, so that everyone in their own individual way can help move humanity and the collective and everyone and the world and the governments, etc., to a higher level. So all of this energy, like I said a little earlier, is also hard on the earth. Global warming, again, however you think global warming is working and or where it started, it doesn't really matter. What we need to do now is to combat it any way that we can. Clean air, clean water, recycle, anything and everything. Plant trees, work in the garden, love the earth, love your flower gardens, love the food that you make, anything like that gives the love and the energy back to the earth that seems like it is getting depleted from a lot of that energy. Honoring the earth spirituality, honoring all of those that take care of the earth, including the fairies and the gnomes and the dragonflies and the hummingbirds. I mean, everything that helps the earth grow and feel love. And so that's very, very important to do, especially at the equinox. Get outside. The portals in the middle of the night, so I don't suggest it then, but the day of the equinox, get outside. If it's warm enough where you're at, walk barefoot. Feel the earth energy. Sit with the earth for a while. Get dirty. Let the earth know there's love there. It's very important during the fall equinox. Big astrological events like this that's going on right now with the equinox and the Cardinal Square and T Square and the square when you pull in Eris, Uranus and Taurus, there's and all the kind of volatile or Mars energy going on. You put that with Eris, and it's like take a deep breath and do some good manifesting. All of these kind of things, I mean, They leave their marks in history. And right now, during this very powerful, when I talked about the Pisces full moon with the Mars connection and this terrific power-packed fall equinox chart, and the Libra new moon, which I'll get to in just a second here. When I was talking about all of these charts and all of this power and everything, and you think about what's happening that's going to be written about in history. We have the Saudi Arabia thing that just happened internationally, and it has everyone on pins and needles, and there's a whole bunch of stuff happening with the president and something he said in a phone call to someone, and I don't know the details and all that, but what I'm getting at is it has everybody anxious, it has everybody kind of worried, and then you have the stuff going on in England, and of course the whole Middle East thing, and on and on and on. And you have these powerful charts happening as above, so below. What's happening up in the sky? If it's the powerful planets, the ones transformation change, or they're in the powerful squares, etc., if they're not getting along very well up there, things are not getting along very well down here. As above, so below. That's where we can understand those energies. So when we walk out the door, we know. We may not be in the midst of, like the Saudi Arabia crisis at the moment, but you may have something on a smaller scale at work, or maybe within the family, or somewhere you go and you're all excited and you get there and everything is all very chaotic. If you understand what's happening out there, you will be able to get through that and go, yeah, that's the energies, and not let it get to you or try to diffuse it or work with it the best way you can. Beauty of astrology, understanding the energies so you can navigate your life better. Very powerful energies right now. Then the Libra new moon, we can look at that for just a second. Similar to the equinox, it's just like about 5 days or so after the equinox. But again, it's at 5 degrees Libra. And you have Venus that's conjuncted. You could pull Mars in out of sign, wide conjunction. Again, it's all energy. So where do you cut the energy off? You don't. Mars is affecting it also. Not quite as strong as if it was right at 5 degrees, but it's in that energy also. And so, again, another emphasis on Libra. And Libra's balance, and Libra's love. And Libra is social. And Libras kind of like to have fun. They like to go to events. They like to be out and about. They're very artistic. So this energy is very, very prominent, again, ruled by Venus, sitting there right with the new moon. So the new moon chart is a strong chart for all humanity. Again, the new moon and the full moon, and then when the equinoxes come along, or eclipses come along. So again, it's trying to shower down this love energy, this balance energy. This, you should love everybody. Really, what that means is that we should honor everybody. And, there's some people you may not get along with that well, so you're kind to them. It's nice to meet you, whatever, and then you exit and go about your business. It's kind of what that brings in. Venus, too. The love part, creative part. Very, very powerful. But there it sits again in the Cardinal Square. It's within the orb of the South Node Saturn. So just like what we were talking about with the Libra Sun at the equinox, of course, was at 0 degrees. But now we bring in the moon, and we still have Venus and Mars there, and it's still squaring Uranus and Saturn pulls in Pluto. So a lot of that same energy, we need to transform. We need to change some things that the government and the corporate America and the structures and I mean, all structures, and that includes schools and the structures of the airlines and the structures of how stores buy, their food, etc., all these structures that are set in place, and how they need to be more in balance, and how they need to have integrity and respect. And they need to, North Node heading towards, working with everybody. Everybody has the right to feel nurtured and to feel cared for. And so you have that same kind of energy going on. You do have Eris that could be pulled into it again through Pluto, bringing in a cardinal grand cross. That energy is still active. The one thing that kind of lessens or kind of gives it a little bit of a reprieve is the trine from Uranus in Taurus, the Earth energy, to the South Node Saturn Pluto conjunction, but also all the Libra energy. And again, Libra is about the other person. Libra is about balance. Libra is about equal give and take. Libra is about love. Libra is about creativity and the arts and social. And so getting out and doing a lot of that stuff during the new moon is will be very, very good for everybody. And it will feel good. That energy will be around everywhere. So we do have the square between Jupiter and Mars, and I do want to point that out. And I believe that's the same for the equinox. So I'm not sure. Anyway, I know here with the full moon, I lost that note. We do have Jupiter that is squaring. Yeah, it comes up and it squares Mars. Sorry about that. I kind of lost my train of thought. So Jupiter can bring in a lot of good luck. It can bring in a lot of joy energy. It can help that Mars, which is that action, and it can be volatile. It can be, angst and anger, and more also passion and initiation, and the pioneer energy. It can help bring in that Jupiter can help through the friction, the growth aspect of the square. The joy and the optimism and the higher knowledge and the expansion on the higher energies. And that's where we want to keep our thoughts and our manifestations, because it can also expand the anger and the war energies. And we really don't want to do that, and especially since Jupiter is in Sagittarius, which is international law. So that's another area to watch out for, to be aware of, and to send some very positive, peaceful, manifesting energies. Is there anybody that has any questions? Anything? No? Okay. So we're in a very, very powerful time right now. We have a lot of help with the aspects and with the energies. We have a lot of help, which we need worldwide. We do need some help, and energetic wise, and help from the universe. Be sure if you can, during the time of the equinox, setting your alarm or whatever. Here in Des Moines, where I live, I do a phone call. I always do a community celebration at the opening of the portals of both equinoxes and both solstices. And I love to do, of course, in-person celebrations, but this one's in the middle of the night. So me and myself and a friend, Jan is her name, we will do a conference call. So anyone that wants to set their alarm and join the conference call, and we do get people. We get people that are laying in bed in their pajamas, and they tune in. The more in community, the stronger the energy. So do try to do that, set your alarm or whatever, and manifest. So Anyway, I seem to have lost my connection here. Do you still have me on?
Cathy, yes, you're still on.
Oh, okay.
Great. So that brings us to the end of your meeting.
Oh, okay.
Yes, and I'd like to thank you so much, and we're looking forward to seeing you next time. So people can contact you at this address here, right?
Yes.
Astro
And
Eyes.
also, yes, and also at astroeyes@aol.com too. Email.
Astro Eyes AOL.
astroeyes@aol.com. That was the me, yeah, email. Mm-hmm.
Great.
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay, well, thank you so much.
Thank
And
you.
we're looking forward to catching you next time.
Okay.
Okay,
Thank
thanks,
you.
Cathy. Bye-bye.
Bye.